Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Sumukascha Ekadantascha Kapilo Gajakarnakaha Lambodharascha Vikato Vignarajo Vinayakaha Dhumaketurkanadhyakshaha Palachandro Gajananaha Vakratundaha Sutrakarno Herambaha Skandapurvadaha Shuklambaradharam Vishnum Sasivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Dhyayet Sarva Vighnopasanteye Yasyadvarada Vaktrabhya Parishadya Parastatam Vignam Nighnanti Satatam Vishwaksenam Tamastraye Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheswaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Now with Swami's guide, let us continue. We concluded the 19th chapter yesterday of Skandham number 1, first Skandham. And before we move forward, let's do a brief recap of what this first Skandham talks about. In Naimisharanyam, which is northwest of current Lucknow, after doing a very long drawn in terms of time, the yajna called Sathya Yagam. And the way the yagas are done, all the ahutis, the fire worship is done till noon time. And after that, they start very early in the morning, take it up to noon time, and then the function of yaga for that particular day comes to a stop. And then in the afternoon, and in the evenings, all these various rishis who were doing those, they take rest, but rest not to idle away time. And that time they listen to Puranic stories about God, about Bhagavan, about love, about spiritual Puranas and all that. So they came to Sutta, Saunaka, the Muni, an elderly Muni, came to Sutta. And Sutta is a Pauranika. His function in like we say a doctor, an engineer, an accountant like that, he was a Pauranika. His duty was to narrate stories. So that is function, not duty. His profession is also a wrong word. Basically, a function was to narrate the various Puranas. And he is a son of Romaharsha, who was also a Pauranika. So they came to him and asked him, now that, how can man, they were always concerned about, all their questions will always be for the welfare of humanity, for welfare of man, and nothing about their own selfish needs. They say that the Kali has come, but Krishna Bhagavan's avataram over, what can man do? Right now he's going to be so much in trouble. It'll be like a whirlpool that is going to be caught in. What is it that we can do to help him? What is the best? And then Sutta says that the best thing is to follow Bhagavata Dharma. And how can you develop Bhagavata Dharma? You study and listen to the exposition of the narration of the Bhagavata stories, which describes the glory of Krishna. His stories and his glories are what it is. Then he mentioned what this Bhagavata Dharma was taught to Parikshit by Sukha Muni. Then when he said that, and he said Sukha had learned it from Vyasa, and Vyasa had himself wrote that, but he learned it from Narada, and in composing that. And then the rishis asked a question: how come Parikshit got taught on this? What is the story behind it? Then Sutta describes what happened after the Mahabharata war, of how Parikshit's son, Abhimanyu's son Parikshit, while in the womb of his mother Uttara, and was about to be annihilated by the Brahmastram from Aswatthama, who had gone on a revenge tour kind of a thing, trying to kill everyone, and how Krishna saved him. And so that story he narrates from Uttara's womb, how he came. And then after narrating that, and when Krishna was about to take leave after the Mahabharata war, Then Kunti asked him, "Hey, can you please stay behind for a little bit longer? We really don't want to see you go because I don't know when I will see you again." And then the Kunti Stuti comes, which is a very important prayer, and that comes from a Bhakta to a Bhagavan. We covered that. And then Yudhishthira becomes despondent, a bit sad because of all the sins that he has committed as the man in charge, responsible for all the literally millions of people being killed in the Kurukshetra war, and he was ultimately responsible. And so he was really sad how to propitiate and how to compensate and negate all the sins that he had accumulated. So after discussion, before that, Krishna actually sends him to listen to Bhishma, who was lying on bed of arrows in the battlefield, and he sends him to Bhishma with asking these questions to get solace and comfort, because Bhishma is in exactly the same position of having lost all his relatives, and Yudhishthira the same way. And so then the discussion with Bhishma comes, and we have the birth of Bhishma describes many things, all various dharmas, the administration, charity, penance, all aspects of life. Then finally, we asked him, we asked him 6 questions, and Bhishma answers those. That is now what we call as Vishnu Sahasranamam. And then after that, Uttarayanam comes, Bhishma passes away. But before he does, the Vishnu Sahasranamam is beautiful, that leading to his mukti. And then he praises Krishna, who's seated in front of him, and mentally, because he stopped talking. And that is the Bhishma Stuti. So we covered that. And then they all return, and then he performs Saswamedha Yaga to propitiate his sins. And then, in the meantime, then Krishna leaves for Dwaraka and takes Arjuna with him. After he leaves, Vidura comes, who had gone to the Himalayas, and he's attained spiritual knowledge, Atma Vidya itself, from Maitreya, as commanded by Krishna himself. And Vidura knew then when he visited that Krishna indeed had departed, and he didn't want to convey the message. He comes and advises and counsels Dhritarashtra and Santari in a very strong, very firm, and extremely loving manner, and takes them away from the life of a dog, is what he calls that, of living in utter luxury, depending on others, when in fact at this age he must be thinking only of God and seek only God. So they follow him unannounced, and they didn't inform anyone. They just leave it in the night time, and Vidura takes them to the Himalayan mount of the northern regions, teaches them how to do tapas, and they do that. And while they are immersed in the bliss of Bhagavan, one with him, a fire comes in the forest and consumes both Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. Vidura was very happy when he saw that, so now he had decided to leave his body at a specific place further north in the Himalayan mountains. He goes there and leaves his body. And in the meantime, back here, Krishna has gone to Dwaraka, and then Yudhishthira was concerned about the long time no news from either Arjuna or Krishna. So, and he was getting all type of omens that says that things are not right, and many things that he was not used to in the previous thing. That was all began to started to take place. Deception and lies and fights and injustice and cruelty. All these things were beginning to take place. So he was really concerned about that and about the welfare of Krishna. And he kind of got the intuitive feeling that Krishna was no more. That is why all these atrocities have started to happen. And then Arjuna comes and reports what happened, how Krishna had departed, how Dwaraka, the city of Dwaraka, was being engulfed by the ocean, leaving, and how he was put in charge by Krishna with a letter that he wrote to him to take care of all the ladies, all the children, and all the elderly, and from Dwaraka to Hastinapura, and how on the way, when they were camping at night by the bank of a river, the barbarians, the actual nomads who live in the forest, came and took away all their wealth, the ladies and the elders, and beat them up, and Arjuna just could not even fight with them. He had lost the knowledge of all the mantras, he had lost all his strength, and he felt absolutely impotent, and he realized that whatever had happened to him was because of Krishna's grace, and with Krishna gone, all his powers had gone. So when he reported that, of course, everybody was very sad. Then Sahadevan tells them, Bhima actually wanted to take his life. And then Sahadevan says, no, listen, do you remember what Krishna said the other day when he came for carrying the message of peace before the war started? And when Dhritarashtra asked him, how come, you're treating Pandavas and Kauravas differently, and Pandavas special to you, you're being partial to them? And then how he rode like a small lion walking up and down in the palace with his hand folded behind his back. In a commanding voice, he said, I will tell you the relationship between me and Pandavas. For this body, that Yudhishthira is the head, and Arjuna is the shoulders, and Bhima is the thigh, and Nagula and Sahadeva are the legs. And for a body composed like this, the heart is me, is Krishna. Yes, they are special. So remember what he said. What does it mean? That even though Krishna has gone, even though our life force goes away from the body, the limbs remain warm and active for a little bit longer, don't they? They don't they don't become cold. They still remain warm. So like that, we all have. We will be leaving our bodies, tomorrow or day after, but like the limbs that remain warm after the life force goes away from the body, we also will go away, but we have our job to do. So they go and report to Kunti, and Kunti immediately gives up her life on hearing that Krishna is no more. And Yudhishthira and the Pandavas had decided to leave. So they bring Parikshit, who was just a little, very small child, not even a boy, very small child. And in presence of Kripacharya, Yudhishthira puts him the crown of the royal crown on his head and gives him the charge of administering the kingdom. And they all just turn and walk away, walk out of the palace, and without talking, without looking at anyone, with folded hands, and Mahaprasthanam, as the prince called, traveling north, without food, without sleep, without any rest, with mind fully focused on Bhagavan, till the time the body just falls down and the life force goes away from it by itself. So one of the most severe penances that the person can undertake. That's what they did. And so they went, and Draupadi also followed them, called out after them, found out that the bondage that they had, that was existing between them in their bodies, the relationship had broken, had snapped. They knew that their husbands were completely focused on Krishna only. So she also focused her mind on Krishna and left her body at the place that allocated for that. And so they ended. That's how that took place. Then Parikshit, who was already coronated, his kingdom began, and he ruled as an exemplar of dharma, of righteous conduct, of protecting the weak, protecting the underserved, and protecting the yogis, the saints, and the sages, and made sure that everybody followed their duties, dharmas, in a proper way. In such a way, he was an exemplary leader and very powerful also. So wherever he wanted to go and conquer, those kings and all that, they didn't even pick a fight with him or a battle with him. They immediately surrendered to him. So he was so popular, such a dharmic man that he was. And then he had a son called Janamejayan that was born to him. And one day he went hunting, and he lost his way, and very tired and thirsty. He showed up at the hut of a hermitage and asked for some water, and there was no one attending on him. There was one rishi seated there in samadhi. He didn't hear him. And so Parikshit turned back to exit the hut. At that time, he stepped on a dead snake. And as Bhagavan's design is, the divine design manifests itself through various actions, various things and opportunities. And that's how Bhagavan design takes place. He can pull any string that he wants. And so for a moment, the compulsion of the moment is inescapable, as Bhagavan says. Completely out of character, he picked it up and threw it around like a garland around the neck of that yogi who was seated in samadhi, and then he walked out. Now, his son, Rishi, was Samika, his son Sringi, a little boy who was playing with his friend, found out about it. Then he threw a curse at Parikshit in a fit of anger, because he just could not take the fact that his father was humiliated like that. And so he threw a curse saying to Parikshit that the one who threw this death snake around the neck of my father, may he be bit by the snake Takshaka in 7 days from today and die because of that bite. And so when then he was crying, and when finally Samika came out of his samadhi and he found his son crying, he took him on his lap. First he woke up and saw the dead snake around his neck. He just put it out, just slipped it and threw it on the floor. He was not absolutely bothered with it. Then he took his son, put him on his lap and tried to console him on what happened. And when he found out what had happened, immediately he was extremely discomforted. And he was telling his son, how can you do like this? We are supposed to, you brought a big shame to the clan of all the rishis. We are here to exercise self-control. We have to control our mind. We have to control our speech. We are here to become one with the one divinity that is present everywhere. You should have understood the king's position better. He came here thirsty. He came here hungry, extremely weak. And when nobody answered him, he did something out of character. An extremely dharmic Raja, king of tremendous righteousness. If he passes away, who's going to take care of all the citizens of the kingdom? Who's going to protect them? By the simple act, such a small act that he did, he was given such a major punishment. So he was not at all happy. So he wanted to alert Parikshit that this is what happened. So he sent one of his pupils to give the message. In the meantime, Parikshit, who had gone back to the palace, very tired, exhausted, completely exhausted from the day of hunting and all the other mental anguish that had taken place, had fallen asleep. And then when he woke up, he realized the enormity of the mistake that he made. So he was immediately wanted to come and beg for forgiveness from this rishi. At that time, the message gatekeeper came and said this young Muni is waiting there to see him. So Parikshit saw him and he gave him the message from his master saying that this is the curse that has been thrown at you by my master's son Sringi, and in 7 days from now the Takshaka snake will come and bite you and you will leave this body. You will die at that time. On hearing this, Parikshit was overjoyed. He was not at all afraid. He was not sad. He was overjoyed, enthusiastic. He was ecstatic. He said, what a great blessing this is. Now I know I got 7 days to live. Immediately he called his son from inside Janamejaya and put the royal crown on his head, gave him the responsibility to run the kingdom, and walked out. Just walked out without looking in any directions, without talking to anybody, right to the banks of river Ganga. And with a determination to fast unto death and to think only of Bhagavan, to spend the company of the remaining time of his life in the company of Bhagavan. There's such a strong determination that that discipline, the determination with which he walked out, abdicating everything, cutting his relations with everything in the world. And this is what Bhagavan, the moment we all do that, each one of us does that, immediately Bhagavan will come. That cutting, that snapping the relationships with everything. That's what he did. And the same thing like Mahabali did. And then when he went there, all the other rishis, the Maharishis and Brahma rishis, including Parasurama, everybody gathered there as a huge assembly of one of the most exalted assemblies that you can think of, had gathered there in support, in awe and in witness to witness this great bhakta who had now come there with this greatest determination. And then Sukhamuni also arrives there. Parikshit asked the rishis, what should I do? I have 7 days to live. What should a person who's now meeting in the face of death, imminent death, it's going to strike him any moment, and what should he do? What is one action that he should do? Please advise me on that. They gave different answers. He was not happy, was not satisfied. At that time, Sukhamuni comes there. And Sukhamuni, the beautiful description of Sukhamuni is given that we went through. And then an elderly sage gets up. Everybody is wondering who it was. And then the elderly sage, because he could understand from the lakshanam of the body and who it is, he came and addressed him and told everyone, this is none other than the great Brahman, Sukhamuni himself. And everybody is wonderstruck. Parikshit immediately falls at his feet, surrenders to him. And he says, Swami, it is an incredible blessing from you and the grace. And this must be because the devotion of my grandfathers had for Krishna and the love that Krishna had for my grandfathers and the fact that I am related to my grandfathers through the Gotram, through the lineage. Because of that, the grace of now Krishna is now falling on me. He is now considering me as his own. Otherwise, how can I get this grace of even having your darshan? It's impossible for you to move about unmanifest. Nobody can see you unless you decide voluntarily to show yourself. Nobody can see you. You'll come here at this moment. And when I'm faced with the imminent moment of death is approaching me, your grace, so he's full of worshipping and revering. So then he says, Swami, I have one question. What is it I should do? What is a man like me, a person who's now facing the jaws of death, the bite of death? It's going to happen any minute for each one of us. But he says, he's asking on our behalf. He says, what is one action? Suddha karyam is what he says. Okay? Suddha karyam. What is the one activity that he should do when that is most beneficial to him when he is faced with death, with imminent death? And among all the things, japam and dhyanam and puja and smaranam and so many things are there. What is the one thing he should do? And what are the things that he should avoid? That's the other question he asked. The main question is, what is the one thing that a person who's facing death must do? And then Sukhamuni, so pleased he was with the sweet words and the polite words and the extreme humility with which Parikshit submitted himself to him. He begins to answer and he says, yes, I know your question. I've come here to give you the answer. Not only to you. This question is relevant not only to you. It is relevant for the whole of humanity. Yes, and I'll give you the answer that will benefit not only you, but the whole of humanity will be benefited by that. And then he starts speaking. Up to that point we came. That's a brief review of Skandham, first Skandham, where the glories of Krishna are described plentifully, beautifully it is given. And then the similar thing, the descriptions of Krishna are given here by various people, by Kunti, by Bhishma, by the various rishis, all those of Sukha and everybody else, Sukha as well as Saunaka and all those rishis, and Parikshit, with all these descriptions about Krishna that we went through, they all are kind of lead us into the Dasama Skandham, when the childhood plays and the various glories and stories of Krishna are described in the 10th Skandham. Okay, these fit into that directly. You can skip everything else in Bhagavatam if you want. Okay, and there is a concise Bhagavatam coming up in second Skandham, and beyond that, most of it is, some of them is kind of intellectual knowledge. There are various avatarams, so many things are given. But the beauty of Krishna, the prema tattvam of Krishna that these devotees talked about, that these Maharishis and Brahmarishis talked about, that we went through in Skandham number 1. Please remember that, right? That takes you, it's a launching pad to partake the nectar of the love of Krishna that we will experience when we go through, either read or hear the narration of the Skandham. So that is a very brief review of the Skandham. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Samastalokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastalokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastalokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.